you're watching this video, please put your politics aside and let's just talk about the issue. There's time for politics later, but let's just talk about the issue at hand here. And so I have gotten a couple of emails now from clients this week about the COVID vaccine mandates that are going on. And so I'm recording this video on September the 3rd. It's important to note that date because after that date, some things may change. So September 3rd, 2021, as of right now, here is my take on what I have seen with the vaccine mandate for employees. So I've read through this and I've read it at a federal level. I've read a few of the state level requirements, and every single one of the mandates that I have read actually has exemptions. And so some of them are open-ended. So the one I saw on the federal side, you could merely just opt out of the vaccine. So if somebody on your team did not want the vaccine, they didn't have to give a reason or anything like that. Again, that's as of this date. On the state level side, I've actually seen some that are stricter, where they require an employee to either have a medical exemption from a doctor. So a doctor signs a letter and says, hey, I am requesting that this person be exempt because of the following medical reasons, or religious reasons, or a disability, or there's some sort of restriction. So when you're looking at the mandates, some of them have restrictions on who can be exempt from it and that sort of thing. Even the healthcare workers. We have a family member who's a nurse, who's pregnant. She's, concerned about the vaccine. And so I looked through it and said, look, in the health worker mandate, it's very, very clear that you can be exempt for these couple of reasons. And so what happens, whether it's on the federal side or the state side, is people who are unvaccinated will be required to get a minimum of one test per week, one COVID test per week. Some, it requires up to 2 tests per week, things like that. They're also required to wear a mask. They're required to socially distance, those sort of things. It's different. On the federal level, there's more focus on the socially distancing and things like that. On the state level, some of the ones I've said don't require the social distance, just require the testing and the mask. So it's a little bit different for every single one. But what you need to know is, number one, not to freak out and say, hey, I've got to get everybody vaccinated by a certain date or anything like that. There are exemptions. You just need to read through the letter and look at the exemptions, see where your employees line up, that sort of thing. If employees choose to get the vaccine, then they wind up in a category where they don't necessarily have to wear a mask and that sort of thing. Again, it depends on your state. Illinois is currently under a mask mandate. Everybody indoors, regardless of vaccination status, have to wear a mask. So you just need to pay attention to all of the documentation, go through it, and then there's costs are involved for some folks. So that's one of the challenges. People have come back to me and said, well, what about the cost? Well, most states are doing free screenings and testing and all that kind of thing. So depending on what state you're in, there's likely a test center very close to where your employees work. They can go get tested very quickly, very easily. Maybe takes 10 minutes out of their day to go and do that. So that's usually about all you're going to be covering cost-wise, unless there is a positive test result, that sort of thing. And then there may be some cost there, which you probably have to cover that anyway. So the one thing that I have suggested at this point is to talk to your contracting officers. Don't email them. Don't send them a letter from an attorney. If you have questions about cost or things like that, step one, talk to your contracting officer. See if they have already thought about the cost for this, for if there are costs related to testing, employee hours, any of that kind of stuff. Have a conversation with them. Let them go back to their team and see if there's a possible contract modification there, because that's what I would request, a contract mod that says, hey, had we priced this contract during COVID, we would have taken these things into consideration. The landscape has changed since we signed this contract. It's not you. It's kind of, the landscape as a whole in the industry. So can you consider a contract modification for that? So anyway, keep your politics out of it. Stay focused on the issue at hand. Ask the contracting officer for a modification if you believe something is necessary. You might get denied it. You might just have to suck up the cost as a cost of doing business. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of clear up some of the myths that are going around about this. If you have questions, let me know. I'm not an expert in this area, but I have reviewed a bunch of this documentation. I might be able to point you in the right direction. Thanks. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.